I think it's very important to have a very close interaction between the developers and the documentarians, especially when you document APIs, because you really have to establish that understanding between the two.
Welcome to the Knowledge Base Ninjas podcast, where Gauri Ramkumar of Document 360 finds the best SaaS self-service knowledge bases in the world and then interviews their creators. Let's get started with today's episode.
Welcome everyone to the Knowledge Base Ninjas podcast series. Our guest today is Gayathri Krishnaswamy, Senior Content Developer at OutSystems. Welcome Gayathri to our Knowledge Base
Thank
Ninjas
you.
podcast. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. And thank you once again for spending your time with us. And before we start anything, please give us a little bit more introduction about yourself and how did you get into this professional journey? And most importantly, how are you enjoying so far?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So I started my career as a developer and I didn't enjoy as much. And by pure chance, I moved into a business analyst kind of role where I closely worked with the customer facing team and the architect to translate the customer requirements into functional spec. And I absolutely enjoyed that role, and it gave me an opportunity to interact with all kinds of stakeholders and totally away from development. And actually, it gave me an opportunity to look at the product from a very different angle. I did that for about 3 years for a telecom firm in the US. And then I moved to Cisco, India, where I joined as a lead technical writer. At Cisco, I did all kinds of technical documentation. I created all those chunky PDFs with Adobe FrameMaker. And it was about, after about 5 years, I was getting a bit restless and was looking for a change. And then I took a break from full time to do some freelancing. I did a couple of freelancing assignments, which didn't challenge me enough. And then when I was doing my freelancing, I also joined the open source, the Good Docs project.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably say that was a very critical point in my career because uh, that's where I made the shift and I found my niche in technical writing space. Like at the Good Docs project, we create templates for developers to create good documentation. And I also gave me an opportunity to interact and network with some of the smartest minds in technical writing space. And I created a few templates, and then I also worked on few open source projects, predominantly focused on developer-focused docs. And then um, and then I realized probably this is my calling. Like with my background in tech and my interest in writing, I thought developer focused documentation would fit me really well. And then when my kids got a bit older, I
Yeah.
joined full time and at OutSystems. So doing things that I really enjoy doing. Yeah. I create documentation for OutSystems developers. And the OutSystems is basically a low-code platform that
Mm-hmm.
allows developers to build enterprise-grade applications.
Okay.
And you really don't have to write tons of code to build your apps. Instead, we provide tools to like create your screens, create your databases, integrate with external databases, and so on. So you can create apps within a very short span of time.
Nice.
And we
Great.
create documentation for those developers.
Nice. So I think my next question to you is very apt for your journey. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Now, in order to ensure that your documentation remains up to date as the product evolves, most importantly,
Mm-hmm.
what strategies do you use?
Ours is a small team,
Hmm.
so we have to manage different projects at OutSystems, and each of them is evolving. So we track, we prioritize the documentation, and we also have all this changes stored in Jira. So we use kind of a docs as code approach, and we also interact closely with the product team and the
Yeah.
engineering team. and to communicate, and they would constantly communicate the changes to us. And so yeah, we use a bit of tooling to keep track of all these updates. Yeah.
All right. Now, being a business analyst, you must have been very much involved in the product development life cycle, right? Right.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout in the initial stages of its planning to the final stage. Just taking the same experience back into documentation, what do you prefer? Do you prefer writing docs alongside the development or after the product or feature is built?
uh, I would probably say at OutSystems, we kind of release the documentation along with the product.
Mm-hmm.
Like we don't do it, it's not an afterthought. And documentation plays a very critical role in the enablement of our product. So so we write once the R&D team decides to release a product, they kind of come up with the high level design, and then and then we interact with the UX. So it all happens along with the development. But the documentation team enters when the UX is done, when
Okay.
almost the user experience is done, and then
Yeah.
we enter, and then we design the content plan, and then we prioritize the content. Like we don't we kind of, for every release, we kind of create the minimum viable documentation, and
Yeah.
then we go on improving it further. Yeah,
Yeah.
so
So
we
just to
create
put
along
it
with the product. Yeah.
along with the product, but at least the UI is ready so you can capture
Yes.
screenshots and create.
Yes.
Understand.
Yes.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Now, in that sense, what do you think is the biggest mistakes companies make when documenting their APIs or developer tools?
Biggest mistake. Um,
Or we can say, what's the best practices when documenting APIs and developer tools?
yeah, so with APIs, we've been currently involved in API documentation. So I think we also use Swagger. So I think it's very important to have a very close interaction between the developers and the documentarians, especially when you document APIs, because you really have to establish that understanding between the two. Right now, especially for the API reference documentation, we use Swagger.
Yeah.
So, and the Open API spec. So we don't have to, like, they upload the Swagger file, and then we create the documentation out of that. So that way we ensure consistency between what the APIs that's being developed and the documentation. And then we focus on the conceptual content.
Mm-hmm. Understand. Yeah. Now, when it comes to talking about the future,
Mhm.
what trends do you see shaping the future of developer documentation or a or any documentation in general? What's the future like?
I think with AI is taking a big is playing a big role in
Yeah.
our creating documentation, whether it's developer focused or any other end user focused. But I think AI is playing a very critical role in shaping the documentation. Yeah.
Great. I think you're kind of answering my next thought on the AI because this, as you rightly said, AI is now becoming like one of the topics to be discussed in almost all the industries, all the conversations. So, how do you think using AI could improve your documentation workflow? Have you got something already in plan or in scope?
Mm-hmm. Yes, with AI, recently we've got our own AI. We use Gemini at OutSystems. So we have the opportunity to even upload our internal documentation to leverage the capabilities of AI. So at least what we use for AI is we kind of use AI to generate the first draft,
Mm-hmm.
like especially the conceptual content. Like, so we kind of get the first draft out with the help of AI. And
Yeah.
also, we also use AI for any kind of, we constantly try to resolve the customer feedback issues. And we also sometimes, at least I use AI sometimes to help me understand what the feedback is about.
Yeah. Hmm.
And another part is and the research. So I use a lot of AI in the initial phase of technical documentation, which is the research part, okay, to understand the technology and what are the best ways to document it and so on. So, but I wouldn't completely rely on AI. So it's just going to give me the first draft. And after that, I'll have to use my due diligence to refine it and improve it further. Yeah.
That's very true. So you kind of work alongside with AI. So you have
Yes.
the help of AI to create that
Mm-hmm.
initial thought process, and then you
Yes. Mm-hmm.
empower it more.
Yeah.
Absolutely, Gayatri, that's great. Now, just moving on to the rapid fire round. Can you share some of the valuable resources, particularly documentation related resources you consumed recently?
Yeah. So I've extensively used this book. Can you see it? Probably the Docs for Developers. Yeah,
Yes,
it's a
yeah.
great book. It's a great book. Yeah, this book is predominantly for developers to write good documentation. But as a technical writer, I've gleaned a lot of valuable insights from this book. Uh, Very simple and but very, very insightful. And then of course Tom Johnson's "I'd Rather Be
I
Writing"
would rather
blog.
be writing, yeah.
And I don't know if I can call that as a resource, but whenever I'm stuck at work, I usually look at how other companies do their documentation. Could be like
Mm-hmm.
Google, to name a few, like Google, Amazon, or Microsoft.
Yeah.
And I always that has always helped me because it helps me understand how other companies approach similar problems, what I can do, what I cannot do, and so on. So yeah, so that's definitely one of my valuable resource while at work. Yeah.
Nice. There are two very good references you've given us already. Now, when I say the word documentation, what is that one word that comes to your mind?
I'd probably say enablement,
Mm-hmm.
um, because at OutSystems, uh, the documentation plays a very critical role in enabling the developers to use our platform.
Yeah.
So enablement is what I would think. Like if your documentation doesn't enable the developers to use the product, then there's no point. Yeah.
Yeah, true, very true. What's that one piece of advice you would give to your 20-year-old self?
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah, I'd probably say be patient and
Mm-hmm.
be empathetic. Like I know many of the guests have pointed this before, but really, really have to understand your user needs and the purpose of your document. And then and once you figure that out, the rest of the things falls in place.
Yeah,
And also like learn how to research.
yeah.
Like um, learn how to look for information in the wild. So these two are probably the most important things that I would probably say my impatient 20-year-old who just wanted to go and write her first draft. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay, that's really nice, Gayatri. Okay, I know that it's not possible to capture everything what you have experienced and gained over the years in this 20 minutes, but is there anything that you would like to add to our audience today, Gayatri?
I think we've pretty much covered everything. What I probably want to say is get your hands dirty with the product.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's very important. Don't consider yourself only as documentarians, like writing documents, but you play a very important role in shaping your user experience. Like my team lead would constantly say, you're the biggest advocates for your users. Treat documentation as a core part of the product and not just as a support function. So you're as important as developers who've created the product. So yeah,
That's very true. Yeah,
yeah.
that's what we heard and keep reiterating that documentation should be a vital part in the whole software life
Mm-hmm.
cycle and not just
Yes.
the last
Yes.
piece to solve the puzzle.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Fantastic. So, Gayatri, thank you once again for spending your time with us in spite of your busy project schedules, and all the very best for your future writing and to any initiatives you're planning to take.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a pleasure. Nice. Thanks for hosting me. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Gayatri. Take care.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Knowledge Base Ninjas podcast. Please head to iTunes, rate, and provide honest feedback on the podcast. See you next week.